Hi, good morning. Welcome back to Elf Key Art Studio. I've been working on some different whimsical face drawings and have made a few videos. I am a new video person to YouTube, so you'll have to kind of be patient with me as I learn all the different aspects of the audio and the zooming and the switching from pen tablet to my face camera to my now my work surface camera. This is brand new, so this video is sort of a trial in a way, but if it comes out good, we'll see about publishing it. Today what I'm going to do is I am going to move from my pen tablet where I've done most of my art for you, and I'm going to move over here to my work table camera because that's what I'm testing today. We're going to do a drawing of a face. We're going to use mixed media for this one. I'm going to talk about the materials that I use and different kinds of surfaces that I work on for this one, and so I will see you over there at the other camera. Okay, we're over here at my drawing table, and I want to show you a few of the supplies that I really love to use and give credit to the people that made these supplies. Like I say, this is mixed media, so you're going to see a lot of variety of things. I'm not going to show you my acrylic paints because they're cream coat and you can find them, folk art, you can find them at Walmart, and Target, and a bunch of other places. So I didn't bring those in, but I do want to show you some special ones that I really like. Jane Davenport has a set of these, what's called palette pastels. And when you open them, they're just simply beautiful. And you'll see when I get ready to start applying color to our picture that I will use these quite a bit. She has 3 different sets, and of course I had to have them all. This one is the lit up series, and it's super brights and super fun. And then she has this other one that is just comes in extremely handy, and it is called Birthday Suit, and it's for all of your shading for your face tones. And this one I can't live without. I just love it when I am working on a canvas or on paper or watercolor paper. This one works perfect. These are pastels, and so I'll show you in a moment what they're applied with. You can wet them, but I don't suggest it with, like I say, with them being a pastel. And then her third one, let me put this over here. Her third one that I have that I keep getting things upside down. Okay, is called Mineral Eyes. And this, you can see she put the little sparkles and stars over the girl's head because they are marbled and they are metallic, and they are just simply wonderful. And I can go through and show you those, but you can actually go to Jane Davenport YouTube and look up any of the palette pastels, and there will be a lot of demonstrations of how she uses them. Okay, something happened to that recording, and I'm not sure what it was, but we're back, and this is the pad, the type of surface that I usually do my artwork on. It's by Bristol, and or I guess it's by Cranston, but it is Bristol paper. It's got 2 distinct sides. I don't really know the difference in the sides. But let's take a piece out and take a look. It says one side is smooth and one is textured. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even know that because I just pull a piece of paper out and I'm always thinking that that's the top of it, but maybe there is a back side. There's a back side. It's a little rougher than this side. This side is Or maybe this is the rough side. See, it's so I would suggest in mixed media, I happen to like the smooth stuff because all of my pastels and colors I like to blend so much. So that's my choice. Okay, so let's take a piece of this out and take a look at it. Like I say, I'm new to videotaping, so we'll have to. I'm trying to learn to not look at the camera that's filming me, but to look at the surface that I'm actually working on. So I work usually in this manner instead of this way. This paper happens to be, I'm sure I should have told you the size, happens to be 14 inches by 17 inches. So if it's laying this way, it's kind of more of your landscape. This would be your portrait. And I tend to do portraits, so this is probably how I'll work. I'll have to move the paper up and down because of my camera, but that's okay. I don't mind doing that for you. There's one other surface I do want to show you that's kind of fun that I have done before. I've done several of mine on. And I did get this idea off of, I believe, a Karen Campbell YouTube. And so I'm going to give her credit for that. And I fell in love with it. But you take an old record album. I guess you all know who that is. Let me look. It's an Andy Williams record, Danny Boy. Who knows from what time period? I don't know if this is dated, but that's okay. I go to a lot of junk stores, Goodwills, places like that, and you can find stacks and stacks and stacks of these old record albums. And what I mean by record, if you're young, you may not know what an LP is, an old vinyl record. It's just an old vinyl record like this that comes inside of it. This one is not the one that's out of this, of course. And I have spray painted something using this. I believe my husband actually spray painted it. But I'll show you that in a minute. So you take this record album and you will gesso the top of it. This was probably the front side of the record album to begin with. And you can do 1 or 2 layers of gesso. One is fine, but it seals it and it gets it ready for your paint. And I use a lot of acrylic paint. So once you get this painted, then you can do all you regularly would do on regular paper. But it makes, because it's thick, it almost makes like a canvas. It's a thick cardboard. And my husband's very good about making wooden frames for me. So these are 12 or 12 and a half, I'm not sure, 12 inches by 12 inches. So he makes a really nice little frame. And he makes them where these will pop right in to the frame. So that's a really fun thing. I didn't bring a finished one to show you how I've worked on album cover, but you get the idea. You can also, going back to the vinyl, you can also work on the vinyl itself. And my husband just spray painted this side of it, and then I drew on it with my pencil, and then I applied my acrylic paints and my pastels and whatever I wanted to do, added some funny saying to it, and I came up with a painting for this and put it in the recent art show called the Frankston Art Walk, and it turned out really nice. And I'm going to show that to you if I can find where I put it. Here it is. Hard to stay organized for videoing, but this was the final result of that record. So inside this frame sits that record album, and that's what that started out as, just like I showed you. And I did this girl on there, and I had her just like that for the longest time. And I do a lot of polymer clay stuff, so I thought, why not make her nose 3D? So that's what I did. I'll kind of angle that up so you can see. The nose itself sits up off of the record. And I wanted that hole covered that was in the middle of the vinyl. I wanted the hole covered. So I made this out of clay and then colored it the same skin tone, and then I just glued it on there. This was a stamp I just used a stamp, and then I went back with green and filled in, and then I just wrote on there because she kind of looked like she would be saying that. And I did this back, you can see, in August during the pandemic, and so it was fun. I found this frame. I just stuck it in there. I took the glass out of the frame and I just stuck the record in there, and I got very lucky that it just fit perfect inside that frame. So you can work on all kinds of surfaces. So I just wanted to let you know about this one. Oh, great. Thanks. I just hit the edge of my table with that, but the things like that are going to happen. So let's go back now to our work surface that we're going to work on today, which is just the Bristol paint, the Bristol canvas. And in the next segment, we will start our sketching. I will bring, and next time I do the video, I will have a reference photo because I'm going to draw from a regular photograph of somebody, and I'm just going to turn this into a whimsical drawing for you. All right, we'll be back. Okay, we're back, and we are at our table surface ready to start our drawing. I have three pencils, mechanical pencils, in case one stops working or the lead breaks or something. For video purposes, I can just quickly grab a second one. I'm also going to get, which I forgot to do a while ago, is, well, I don't see it handy. That's okay. I was going to use a regular pencil along with this. I guess I went off and left it outside, but that's okay. I have an art studio that is completely a separate building from my house, and that's where I do most of this type of art. But since now I'm going to start doing some YouTube videos, I had to haul in some of my supplies, so I guess I left that pencil outside. Here's one. I have one that's kind of available. It's not very sharp, but that'll be fine. And I have two erasers. I'm just going to use a white regular eraser, and I have my gum eraser that I was showing you before. Always, when you use one of these, always get clean surfaces or you'll kind of get some smudgies, but I'll use that one as well. Okay, I went on the internet and I just found a picture of this lady. She's I put in, because I was wanting to do somebody that was a little bit older. I tend to do a lot of young girls, but that's, you know, my preference when I'm kind of doing fairy art or whimsical art. But I think this lady is really attractive, and I'm not even sure that I'm not going to I tend to do this. My mother tells me that not everybody has pointed ears, but sometimes if you want something to be a fairy, you may want to go in and see what the drawing kind of looks like with fairy or elf ears. Maybe she is an elf and nobody knows it. Okay, so she could definitely be classified as an elf if we wanted her to be, or fairy. Okay, so I'm going to show you kind of how I get started. Is I kind of put the drawing off to the side a little bit, and probably should have made her a little bit smaller, but I think maybe right here you can still see what I'm doing. I like to say that I like to fill up the surface with the face. I kind of go big. It's easier for me. It does take more paint in the end, but that's fine. Okay, so what I do is I kind of look at the structure, the anatomy of the face, and she's got kind of an oval. And I kind of start off with a circle, really, because there's like a ball here, and then we'll form her chin line down from that. So that is what I am going to start with. I'm going to get her face in here, and I just sort of lightly draw this way. And we'll eventually time-lapse this. And her face kind of sits in here like this. She's got her chin line. If you always kind of put the chin line in and kind of get the idea of where that's going to be, you can kind of get where everything's going to sit. Okay. We know that her hair will come off of her chin on this side, probably like so. Doesn't have much hair, a little foofy, a little bit of hair. Okay, so looking at across her eyes, we look like the angle of her eyes. And her eyes are going to go pretty much straight across. Her nose line is going to go straight across, and then her mouth is going to go straight across around. So we're not going to have to do a lot of angle work here with her. So I'm just going to go ahead. I have to kind of turn my paper because I don't draw straight up and down usually. So I'm going to say that her eye line would be in here. And you kind of, if you think of this as a circle, like that we started off with a circle, let me kind of go bigger than I did originally. Yeah, let me do that. Okay, and so eye line is about halfway down from here to here would be where normal eyes kind of sit. And then we'll put between here and the bottom of the circle, which is here, about halfway there will be the bottom of the nose, although she has a kind of a longer nose. And then her mouth will sit in about between here and here, another space in here. Okay, so we can kind of put these our little guidelines in. It's always very, very helpful. Okay, she's going to, her head is turned to her right. Or is that her left? I can't think backwards here. Anyway, I think her head is turned to her left, but she is looking straight at us. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we are drawing her in. Okay, so let's start. I usually kind of start with these guidelines to get the eyes in. The space between eyes, when somebody's looking straight at you, the space between two eyes, like here and here, is usually the width of an eye itself. Some people is a little bit different. Some people have close together eyes, far apart eyes, but most average is the same distance. However, because her face is turned, or actually turned towards us, she is looking, her whole body is sitting that direction, then she has turned her face for the camera. So we have to probably make this a little shorter in here than we would normally do. Okay, so we're just sketching in. So this is very, very, very rough sketching. And I tell you that I will erase a lot, but just kind of getting the general eyes in. And I kind of do a shape to begin with that's kind of, it's probably going to be closer to our nose. Kind of just a general shape to begin with. I do know that I want her eyes pretty level here. Okay, and then I'll go back in and refine this shape like so, and come around. And I'm not going for it exact. I don't want her to look exactly like that picture. What kind of helps me is when I get the iris in, and her entire iris is going to be I'm going to start over because I'm seeing this is throwing me off. Let me just erase this side of her face because we need this side of her face. I didn't really get that in correctly to begin with, because if you look, this side of the face is coming in almost to that eye, and she kind of has a puff comes around here, and then so because we want her definitely looking straight at us, and that eye is going to cover more. I have to think as I go, talk to myself as I go. Okay, and then this eye, we haven't really formed yet, so let's go and get it formed. I'm trying to draw where it's not in, where the camera can see what I'm doing. Okay, and this side is going to be pretty, her eye is pretty much covering this whole eye on this side too. Okay, she's going to have eyelids that older people have a lot more creases in their eyes than do younger people, but that comes with our age. Okay. And it's just sort of a loop around on this side. I haven't done a lot of older people, so this is going to be a challenge in just that. Okay. All right. And it's her brow line, and then she's got a forehead goes way up like this. Because I've been doing a lot of younger people, I may end up having her look in this young. I don't think she would mind. Maybe. Can't call her and ask her. We don't know who she is. Just a random picture outside, but she is a pretty lady. Okay. I'm gonna say this is rough, but that's where you are at this stage. And we'll come in with these. The more lines that you actually add to a face, should have much of a brow. It just kind of fades off. It's heavy here. And looks up here. The more lines, like I'm saying, that you put in, the older a person will look. Okay, so that's pretty good on eyes. The shape of the face down here is way off, and you can sort of tell that when you get going. Let me put her picture straight up to me, and that way I will be able to tell a little bit better where we're going with her face line. Close out and around to her mouth. And this chin line is going to come in here, and I'm just going to go up. From this ear that sits right about in here. This line actually comes up to that. Neck comes in here. Shirt down. Shirt. Because I spend a lot of time on this initial sketch because it will make all the difference in the world if you do spend the time on the sketch. Dark part of her ears in there. She's got a wisp gray hair coming on here. This way. I'm just kind of putting in where that hairline will go. She's got a part here, and bangs will come down this way. Make sure that nose, my nose is going to end up lower on her face than where I have it. So, bottom of her nose is probably going to be about right in here. And then her lips will start here. Looks like this side of her lip is up here from this one on the angle. She has a thin upper lip, but a pretty one. But pretty. Okay. What I have to do is I have to go and I have to look and place and no. Move her mouth over this way because I have to watch that where this line comes in. This is actually where her mouth starts in here. But maybe not so low on her face. But you can see how it just takes time. And I draw and erase and draw and erase. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to time lapse this because I think it will take me a little while to get her exactly like I want her. And so we will come back. Okay. Okay, you might see that I spent a little bit more time on the sketching. I didn't like some of the things that I had done and how exactly they came out, and I just keep going back and doing more things that kind of, to me, start making it look more like the photograph. I can see in here that like there's a little bit more curvature to this part than what I had. I'm going to put that back in. And actually, no, that nose goes closer to our eye. So I'm going to take that back out. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. There's just always one tiny little change of something can really make a difference. And so, oops, I just kept going back and back and back and back and working on things until I got her to this point. But since we're not going for perfect representation, of her. I am not going to belabor this a whole lot longer because I could sit here and draw for ever and a day and never capture exactly what I wanted. But for our purposes, we are going to call this one pretty close to what we want. Jawline is not right. See how I work? I just fiddle, 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 fiddle until I get something that I like. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. So at this point, I am not going to be using a lot of the reference drawing anymore. I'm just going to kind of go with, this is our new person that we have. That's what she looks like. This one's no longer, I'm probably just going to use a little bit for the coloring, but not a whole lot. But I think we got a good likeness of her, and that was the goal. That was our goal. Okay, so the next phase is going to be color, and I am going to have to go out to my studio and bring in some paints and get some other things. So as of right now, this is where we're going to leave this one, and hopefully I will quit messing with the drawing, but that looks better. And also I would think her shoulder would come more out this way than straight down, maybe. Ah, I can just keep on and on and on and on. And then we'll never get anything painted. Okay, so I'll be back shortly. Okay, we are back. This is another day from the first day of doing the drawing. And I have my reference photo here that we've been looking at. And so we pretty much have her all sketched in pretty much like we want her. I'll turn my mic a little bit more this way so I can talk a little bit louder. So I'm going to take her photo and just kind of put it up above my workspace for now, because I'm not really going to be needing that for this next little exercise. What I do after I get her drawn on there is I like to take my gum eraser, which is this kind of rolled up ball one, and like I said, you kind of have to get a clean spot on it, work it around, and it's kind of like hard putty. Get it around to where you've got it pretty clean. And then what I want to do is, because I'm going to be applying paint and ink and other media to this picture, I want to clean up some areas in the background, and I want to kind of lighten all my lines. I want to still be able to see them, but I don't want them so dark that they kind of shine through. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just kind of just tapping and pulling and tapping and pulling. Still want to see a lot of my lines, but I'm just lightening them up a little. If you can kind of go in a circular motion, it doesn't take off all your pencil, but it does lighten it up a little bit. I kind of got dark around the eyes. That's okay. That'll probably be fine. I'm going to clean up this extra stuff around the sides. We're just going to be leaving her background white. What I do a lot of times is I kind of use the Karen Campbell. I think her method is really good. So I kind of want to show that to you next. Okay, so you can see I kind of lightened up all my lines. I hope you can still see her, but she is a little bit, you can still see the lines through where I'm erasing, but she is getting lighter and lighter. And that's fine. just so I can see lines, the guidelines. Like I say, I did the eyes kind of dark. They're going to be a little bit hard to get to light enough. Okay, so now I've lightened her up, and so when we apply paint, we won't see so much of the pencil line. Okay, before we get started with paint, I do want to show you, I downloaded this from one of Karen Campbell's websites, and I know my lights in here are kind of a bright, so kind of hold this up at an angle a little bit so you can really see it. You build it from the bottom. She calls it the official Mixed Media Society Hamburger Order of Operations. This is not mine. I give full credit to Miss Campbell for this. You can also download it by going to Karen Campbell and getting it, and just put Karen Campbell Mixed Media Hamburger operation or something. And this is just how she builds a picture by layers. I don't always follow this, but it is a pretty good guideline. So first layer is she's going to do any collage and adhesive type of work, and she a lot of times for the background will tear little pieces of tissue paper or beautiful wrapping papers or any kind of little background type stuff. Sometimes sheet music is used. Anything you want to be the background behind your picture. We're not going to do a background with this because we're just concentrating on coloring her face and hair for this lesson. But if you were going to do that, that would become first. And you apply that with matte medium gel. And what that is, let me show you. I have a bottle of that here. It's this matte fluid medium, and I use the Liquitex from Basics, and it's to use with acrylic paint. So we're going to be using acrylic paint as our base. So I'll talk about the base coat. So actually, you take the little pieces of paper or whatever you're going to collage on the background, and put that down. And you use this kind of as the glue. So you're not pasting those down and then covering it with this. This is actually what you wet the paper with and go over it with a brush like this as you apply it. So just wanted to show you that. The next layer is this acrylic paint and or gesso. You can gesso over that background that you just put on, or you can put your acrylic paint down at this point. So we're actually, on our picture, we're actually going to be starting with this layer 2 right here. Then layer 3 is where you can use any water-soluble supplies like water-soluble crayons, pencils, markers, graphic or color pencils, ink, or paint markers. And that's where we're going to be applying some of those supplies, art supplies that I showed you a little bit earlier in this video. Once you get all that done and you really like it, you're going to go to layer 4. And layer 4 is Mod Podge or sealant. There's two forms of doing that I use, so I'm going to show you those. Mod Podge comes like this, and I'm sure most of you, if you're a crafter, you've used this. It comes in matte finish. This is a water-based sealer, so it's good to use over acrylics, or any of those other supplies are water-soluble supplies that I showed you. Even my watercolor pencils, of course, are watercolor. I have found when you have to dry things in between each layer, so I use a hair blow dryer to do that if I am in a hurry. If not, I let them air dry. But make sure that the layer that you do before you do this Mod Podge or sealant, where you have applied these supplies, is very dry and set. Because if you don't, and you go to paint this on, you can smear very easily any of those things that you put on, and you'll be very sorry that you did that, because
the best thing to do, as I can tell you, is to test a little area and see if it's going to smudge or smear. And if it is, it's not dry enough, or it may be that something that you used doesn't mix well with this. So always test that. But a lot of times I don't Mod Podge. I decide to do a sealant, a spray-on sealant. Mod Podge makes one, this clear acrylic sealer. This looks very pink on the camera, so I don't know exactly what my lighting has been doing, but it's close enough. And do it outdoors. It's very flammable. Its vapors are harmful. It's eye irritating. So even if you spray it outside, get it where you know the wind is going away from you, not towards you. This happens to be a super high shine one. I think it comes in others, but and I got mine at Hobby Lobby, but this is what I use because it dries very fast and it does have a high gloss, and my other materials go on really well, and you're going to see that I'm going to use that today. Okay, then after that layer, oops, I just flipped my pencil. You're going to, again, you can apply paint or permanent ink markers for detail work. Still okay for acrylic, gesso, if corrections need to be made. So you can like go back over something that you might have messed up on this level. After this sealant is on there, you can still go back and do things, but this is the layer where you're going to do the detail work with permanent ink markers. And again, that's typically for me is Sharpies or micro markers. You can hear my phone in the background, which I forgot to turn off. That's okay. Somebody can wait. And then I think I have my notifications on my phone to where if I don't look at it, it just keeps ringing me that way. I'm not sure how to turn those off. So in just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and shut my phone off. Then after you get this permanent ink marker on there, you're going to want to seal it again. And then it says on here, layer 7 is an acrylic spray varnish sealant. That is this. That's what I use. I just do a second coat of it, or a third coat, whatever floats your boat and how you like it. But this is the hamburger method. I just wanted to show it to you. I put it in this plastic sleeve because I keep it in my studio hanging on the wall. I also have another copy with me for when I'm traveling, and I can put this in my 3-ring binder very easily. Don't always follow this layer exactly, but it is a good guide, and I think it's pretty neat. I'm going to go turn my phone off, so I'm going to stop this recording for a minute, and I'll be right back with y'all. Okay, sorry about that. Had to just take care of a little message before I keep going. Okay, I want to show you what I did. It's just showing up a little bit brighter than what this color really is. So I may redo this video, but what I did was I went out to my art studio and I took acrylic paint. I'm just using this Deco Art Americana. Not sure where I got it. Probably Walmart or Hobby Lobby. Somewhere like that. Michael's possibly. And I just picked, this one's called Buttermilk color, and I thought it might be pretty for the foundation of her face. And I usually do the foundations of a face in acrylic. Then I start applying other things for the shading of the face. Sometimes I do it all in acrylic, but I think we're going to try to do it differently today. Okay, something that I want to show you on here is this circle is raw acrylic paint. There is nothing over the top of it. This circle is painted with my matte fluid medium as a sealer. And so therefore, I'm going to show you when you start adding stuff, what the difference will be when you start adding other medium to acrylic paint and how it reacts once there's a sealer on it. That's why in her in Karen Campbell's hamburger strategy, she wants she suggests you seal. This one up here is, if I hold it in the light just right, you can see it is glossy, shiny compared to these. This one is a matte, and this one is very dull because it is just the acrylic, flat acrylic paint. But this shiny one up here is the spray sealant. And I like to use it before I start applying other medium. I just like working over the top of it. It's why sometimes I substitute it for this one. I do like this one for building it. I like this one in the end. And it leaves it so glossy. But there's times that I will do this one instead of this one. So this one is what we're going to look at, is just your acrylic paint. This one is your matte fluid medium. Painted on it. And this one has actual sealer on it. And I used a shine sealer, one that's with high gloss. I'll put that high gloss. Okay, so let's take a look at how these react to some of the other materials that we will be adding to it. So first of all, I want to show you the color palette again of Jane Davenport's. Remember, we looked at this yesterday. And so I'm going to open it up. And these are applied. I like to apply these with sponges. So let me get my sponge ready just for demonstration purposes. And let's pretend that we are doing some shading, like would kind of come around the eyes. And so I'm going to pick something that will show up good on the camera. First, we're going to apply it to the acrylic one. So I'm just going to dab a little bit of that paint on my sponge here, and I'm going to kind of shade around this ball. And you can see that it does very lovely. And I can even pick up another piece of the sponge, and we can shade something darker in there and even do some blending. Okay. It's hard to blend because it's working on a little bit rougher surface when it is just acrylics. So let's go over and do the same thing on the matte fluid and see if it does any different. Okay, so there I've put a little bit of that first color on. I'm going to grab a little bit of that second darker color, come in underneath. And it kind of does the same thing. But I like it. I mean, I can come in here if I was, needing some pink cheeks. I can kind of come in and I can add that in if I was doing some pink, as you can see. Wow, this is really a different color than what I'm actually looking at. The camera is really making this funny reddy, and I grabbed a really soft, and here, this color is not that color on the camera, so I will have to work on that. Okay, so this one up here, I think the next time we come back, when we actually start painting, I am going to have colors well adjusted for you. Okay, so let's do this one. up here. This is the one with this with the shine sealer on it. And you can actually go over it as well. And you start seeing the little bit different looks. I always blow, it gets powder around, but I can then take my finger and even blend. So you can see, and I never did, I guess I should have done to make it fair. Should have done some little cheek pinky on this one too. Okay, so if you look at those, you just don't see a whole lot of difference, but I can tell you that I like the way this one actually blends better just on the acrylic. So I think for our purposes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to paint the lady's face in base color of acrylic. We're going to highlight her face with the Jane Davenport palettes and see where we get with that. Some people like to go in with more acrylic paint, doing their first and second layer of the building of the different shades in the face. But we're going to try to do it all with the pastel today and see how that works out. And then I can tell you before you seal, before you do any ink, permanent ink markers on these, they do need to be, after you get all this type of medium down, you do need to seal it because ink will ruin, this will ruin an ink Sharpie marker in just a moment. You won't probably be able to use that marker again for a long time because it can really dry out the tips. So that's where you would want to put this high gloss on and then come in and do your inking like that. Okay, I'm going to stop the video. When we come back, I hope I have this color adjusted for you. Everything is just kind of got a real pink tone to me, and it's kind of overkill pink in my opinion. So I'm going to try to tone that down through my video recording program. Okay, I'll see you back. Stay with me. It's going to be good. Okay, I'm back. I did want to show you before we get started painting the foundation on our magical fairy lady that we started. If you remember, I showed you these Arteza colored pencils earlier in the video, the watercolor pencils. I'm going to take one of these out and I am going to show you how they work on those little paint samples that we just did. So I'm just going to take out this brown pencil and I'm going to apply it now to the acrylic one. I think I got the color better. It's still a little red, but that's okay. And I have a little friend on my paper. Look at that. I don't know where he came from. Okay, so I do live out in the country, and so every time doors open or the dogs go in and out their doggy doors, something bug flies in. Okay, so if I'm going to add color and I was going to put something on like this for shading, this is right over the acrylic. And remember I told you these are water pencils, and if I add water to that, I'm going to get the actual watercolor effect over the acrylic paint. And that has its use. It's really fun. Of course, the more water that we add to that, the more liquidy it gets, and it's a really nice blending and shading if you were doing something on your face that needed some color like that. And that was just this colored pencil that I used out of that set called Garnet Red. Now over here on the matte medium, you can do the same thing. Pencils can be added. They can be blended with a finger a little more easier than it was over here. We can add that water again, and we can get some really neat effects with watercolor. Don't use a whole lot of watercolor on these, but you can see how that would work on that one too. Okay, and then on this one up here, this one has the sealant, and a little more difficult to have to rub harder to get that pencil in there, but it still will work. But it's going to, oh my, it's beating up, if you can see that. Just beating up. It is not taking it. So if you're going to use the watercolor pencil, I would suggest doing it straight on the acrylic. It looks like so far that doing everything right to the acrylics rather than having some type of a finish on them is going to give you a better effect. If there's no acrylic there, let's go in this white space and you put color pencils in and add the water. You're actually going to get that very pretty watercolor effect. But remember, this is not watercolor paper, and the one thing you have to be careful with doing a lot of watercolor is you will get your paper will wrinkle on you. So make sure that your paper that you're using is for water products. Okay, so that's pretty good. We're going to take that away. Now that we have played, we need to come to our real, actual picture. I'll put this pencil away shortly. Okay, I'm just going to use a brush, kind of a rounded in brush, very used brush, but I love it. I use it a lot. And we are going to start just painting in, and I think we will use that same base color. It's a little on the yellow side, and she's a little more pink, but that's okay. I'm not going to have her look exactly like that lady anyway. So what I'm doing is I'm just using a little cup for my kind of my palette. I'm just going to start off with a little bit. I like to go slower with paint and then come back and get me some more and get me some more. So I am just going to, on this video, I'm just going to base her face in. I'm not going to paint over the eyes or over the mouth, but I am going to do whatever else the skin that I see. So I'm just going to dab that paint a little bit, and I'm going to just come in somewhere in here. I'm just going to kind of get this will be a solid, pretty much a solid color until we start highlighting. And this is drying rather quickly on me, so we won't have to do a lot of drying. Okay, I'm going to get this neck part done, and then I'm going to do a time-lapse video for the rest, because it's just simply crazy to sit here and watch somebody do the whole thing. So I'm going to stop the video right here, and when you come back, I will have her face finished for you. I finished the time lapse, getting in the foundation there with the acrylic paint, and we just used the acrylic paint for that. You can see a little bit of smudge of red, little pink there. It's because after this dried, I went ahead and I tested a little bit of the paints that we're going to use, and I did a little smear across there, so that's what you're seeing. Otherwise it would have been all this color from when the last video ended. Okay, so we're going to kind of use our reference photo again to kind of go with colors, and you can see I'm quite yellow compared to the photograph in here. So I'm just going to kind of do my own thing on this one, and she probably won't be this pinky color when I finish. But I'm just going to start with my sponges and some of these skin tones, and we're going to see what happens. I'm going to get my sponges available because I don't like to dip the same sponge into the same color and get my colors all mixed up. Okay, so I'm going to go in, and I think I'm going to kind of go over her with just this light beige pink, and kind of work that into her skin a little bit to give her some contrasting color to what this yellow is, because it is really too yellow. But you can see, even as I add just that much, she starts to change. That's what we're going for. And I just work around. Down in here, she's got a lot of darker shading that goes on, so I'm just going to use my sponge, and I'm going to dip into that little bit darker color right for under there. I do a lot of blowing of the pastels off of the acrylic. Some of it sticks and some of it doesn't. And I'm just using the back end of this sponge to blend a little bit. It's so much easier. I do most of my portrait work on a pen tablet, and that is a lot more controllable because you've got that wonderful ability to back something out once you put it in. It's not in there forever, whereas this is quite the opposite. She's kind of dark under her nose there, so I'll add a little bit of color in there at this point. Okay, we know she's going to be darker around the eyes. You can see that already from up there, so I'm just grabbing some colors. And this side is very shady. Let me get a little bit smaller smaller sponge for that. Applying it up here. And it's going to be really, I'm going to get some of my little dark coffee, a bit darker of my coffee for around that eye. So you really want that to be pretty. Okay, starting to develop. Always like to look away from it and then look back at it and look away from it and see what I've got. Eyebrows in there. We're going to come back in and do some of the major parts with pencil and some of our other markers. I'm not going to do all of the highlighting in chalk because I really do kind of want to go to those gelato pens and do some of that. We can do some with this first. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up this part that I'm working on now. I think I'm going to finish up in time lapse, and you'll see where I get to with this particular palette. And then I'll stop it again, and we will come back and work on the gelato pens. These are the gelato paints that we were talking about earlier. They're by Faber-Castell, And I have a pretty good variety of colors. I probably have, 2 sets in here that I ordered. So we're just going to play around with these on our picture and see what happens. Still kind of fuzzy with the things hanging on the paper. Alrighty. I am probably going to, the one nice thing about gelatos is that you can get a little thing and use as a palette. Yeah. Get a little sheet from this. I'm going to just use this as a palette. And you can mark color like in a circle with these. This is like a little crayon. And then with your water brush, you can make this kind of liquid-ish like that. And it's kind of becomes like a watercolor. So I am going to do her lips in with this and see what that looks like. So I'm just painting in, using the gelato as kind of a watercolor. Lips, on lips, as you paint them, I'm going to put this color all in there first, but top lips are usually darker than the bottom lip because they curve under and down, and so they kind of shadow, whereas the bottom lip catches usually a bigger lip, a bigger thing, and it catches the light, and so it is more illuminated and a little bit lighter than your top lip when painting. So we're going to do that. Now you can see my pencil lines. That's okay because we're going to go back and we're going to ink. We're going to do some ink work there. So to make this a little bit darker, I am going to maybe add a little bit darker purple, just a tiny little circle of it. And I'm going to blend a little bit of that in with this and see if I don't get a little bit darker color. That's still in this same line, but okay, I'm going to go with this top lip a little bit darker. I'm just using a round brush, and I should have brought more brushes in here, but you can see that when the top lip is painted dark, it starts to look more natural. But we're going for whimsical, so, and a little bit below the center line will be dark as well. And sometimes the corners. And then I like to do a little bit darker around the bottom edge of it. Okay. I do think that I'm going to try to pull a little paint out from that corner. Okay. Let's leave. I just have a little water over here to rinse my brush. And I have some paper towel. Paper towel is always good. I've got to remember that I need to be working in more up from where, so you can see everything that I'm doing. Okay, now we're going to kind of go to the eyes. I want to kind of catch the eyes, and then of course we'll come back to the skin, but I'm one of these people that I need to see the eyes and the mouth in, and then I can go back and fix around them. I'm going to say this lady has blue eyes, so I'm going to get a little bit of that blue. These paints go a long way when you're using them in this way. Okay, so I'm just going to get a little water on my brush, get that little bit going, get a little dark. Okay, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to paint this one first. We'll go back in and do all the detail work on her we will do with ink. And that just is going to make all this stuff pop. But for right now, we're just putting in basic color to bring her to life a little bit. Okay, then we're going to do this side. We're going to do this side. And after I get this iris painted on this side, I'm going to do a time lapse, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep painting in these kind of general areas, and then you will see me in the time lapse also do some of the extra shading around her lids and around here, and highlight around her nose. And we'll see how then she looks. We may have to make some choices on her skin. Like I say, we're not going for that exact picture up there of her. On eyes, because the lashes kind of overshade the iris, they're usually a little darker at the top side. So I'm going to add that little bit of a darker color in there. We can come back in with some colored pencils as well. But that's the beauty of mixed media. As long as they're all water soluble, we are good. So we're going to put, and even bring some of that dark around, because maybe the outside edge is dark. Pupil will be black. So, okay. And I'm going to do the pupil in with ink later. But we'll come back in and work on those eyes. All right. I'm going to leave you. It'll be time lapse from here on out. Well, I'll try to get the rest of the face done. Then we can start working on the hair. After that, then we will probably be ready for some of that great detail work with the ink. See ya when we come back. Bye. Can see some things like her lip on this side's a little bit higher than her lip. So I'm about at a point where I'm not going to use the reference photo too much anymore. I'm just going to kind of go with what I want to do myself. I might refer back to it a little bit. So we have used the pastels well, we've used acrylic first, then we used pastels, and then I went and I used gelato pens, and some I put on with my finger and did this white is a little bit shiny, but I'm going for that whimsical look of this fairy, so that's kind of how I want to leave that. I use these kind of as watercolors, and I just marked them on this piece of paper, and then I added water to them and just used a watercolor brush. So that worked out pretty good for what we were doing. Now I'm going to go back in, especially the eyes, and I'm going to just use the end of eraser of a pen. Always make sure that eraser is a good one and it's not going to smudge. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean up some pencil lines that I still have around the eyes. I like to take those out because when I go back in with my ink, I don't like those left. I will shade a little bit more in the eyes because especially this eye will have some shading over the white of the eye a little bit in there. But she's come a long way, and so I will go back in there with my pen and get some of the other details in. So I did put this brow in a little bit heavier with watercolor, but that's okay. We'll come back and we will do this brow a little bit heavier. This brow is bigger, I think, too, than what I'm looking at, so that we get it even. But you can see we're at this point, and I will come back in and start working a little bit now with the inking. Even after you ink, you can go in and shade places and do things, but I think once we get the eyes inked in, the mouth inked in, a little bit of the nose, I think then I'll be ready to do the hair. I just kind of want to see what she looks like, her face itself, before I choose a color for her hair. Guys, I'm not going to probably go with what it was here, although I do like that shiny look with this kind of dark under here. So we'll just have to see. Again, not working on the pen tablet, this makes things a little bit more difficult, but we're getting there. Okay, the next section I will be working on is the fine lines around her eyes and her eyelashes and her nose and around her mouth with ink. And I'm going to time lapse that because I think most all of y'all have done that before. So you can just watch me go through that pretty fast. to this point now, and I think she's starting to look pretty nice. I've got a few places like this side of her nose I kind of messed up, but I am letting I went back with some acrylic, and I have to let each layer of that acrylic dry to cover ink. That's one of those tougher things when you make a mistake, but that's just how it goes sometimes. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out my colored pencils that are watercolor pencils. I am going to find myself a brown, a nice lighter brown probably will do. I'm going to try to put this side of her brow in. Oh, that's a little bit too ready brown. Don't you know, this will probably be, I'm going to pull this brown out. What I'm looking for, here we go, a little bit darker brown. And maybe that one too. Okay. I think I'll use this one as well. Okay. It just takes a while to find what you're looking for. I think I want that one too, and maybe a dark. I'll be settled with these. Okay, so up in the brow line, I'm going to choose a little bit darker brown. Come in here, and her brow was just sort of in here, but there isn't much one here. It's like her brow was like her hair is kind of, she'd really maybe picked her brow line at some point in time. So I'm going to go back in here and kind of get that same color. And this one kind of came in darker under here. The beauty of colored pencils over all this is that they really go on nicely. And she was pretty dark in this curve. So I want to go back in and kind of highlight that curve in there. And this is all still pretty a little bit more shaded in here than what I had it. So on the pen tablet, when you're working on a pen tablet, there's a tool called a shading tool, and you can like swoop it down, and it kind of does this particular work that I'm doing now, it does for you. And so kind of cheats a little bit, I guess, but we will manage with the pencils here to get what we're looking for. Okay, that's looking better. I am liking the way that she looks. I don't know if this is a purple or a blue. Oh, it is blue. I don't want blue. I would like a purple. This is a midnight blue, so let me try that. I still want to get the top of her iris a little bit darker than the bottom of her iris, because it really, to me, makes a difference when it looks a little more realistic. But there we go. And that's why I pulled this little gray out. For this eye, it's actually pretty shaded. I'm going to take a little bit of that white down by shading a little tiny gray right in there and right in here. Gonna give it a little bit of shadow. Okay, and we're getting really, really close to what I'm thinking. It's gonna look pretty good. I do want to add a little. It's always advisable because in real life it's how it really looks. The little corner of the eye where the tear duct is always kind of pink or reddish, and so I'm just on this side. I would think there would be a little bit of color. All right, let me look again and see where we are on the lips. Let's give some highlights to the lips. If I get my white pencil kind of working here. And maybe this upper part of this one would kind of catch the light a little bit as well. Yes, I think I'm kind of liking that. The ear, we know we need to have something in the ear. And here, be a little darker. This area, probably too would have some color. Maybe I'm gonna come back with top of the ears. The top of the ears are actually kind of thin, so making it look like light kind of comes through them always helps out. Okay, I'm happy. I'm very happy with her look at this point. Like I say, I've got to still go back in there with some acrylic paint. Let me try to do that now. And you can see how just kind of have to build back that kind of mistake I made there. But it in the end, it is not going to show because we're going to go back and make sure that we've blended color back into it. But for now, it's kind of just a patch. Just a little patch. Okay. All right. Wanting to do one other thing with her lips. I would like to find a little bit darker color for right along that lip line. I think that would look good. Okay. All right. She's looking pretty good. Now let's talk about the hair. We've got to get the hair in, and I'm thinking that the hair will probably need to be done in acrylic as well as the shirt. Let me move right up here so you can see more in the picture. As well as the shirt. And so I'm going to do another time-lapse video, and you'll watch me put the hair in, and that will be in acrylics. So far we're coming along very good. I'm going to clean up my workstation here and get rid of all these supplies that I have used and gotten the pencils out. I might do a little bit more with this side of the face where I kind of messed up there by the edge of the nose, to get it blended back in to look like the rest of her skin. But for now, I am pretty happy with everything. I do have a desire to go into some of these places where I put colored pencil and kind of turn it more into a watercolor look and see what that looks like. So when I come back, it'll be in a time lapse, but you will see me finish up everything, including the hair, and we'll get her shirt in as well. And I think that will be the final touches, and then we'll be on the home stretch of finishing this one up. Okay. right, we have come to a point where I think we need to look at what we have. I think she turned out quite stunning. I don't have the picture of the original reference bag. Let me get it for you. We didn't get exactly, but we do have a close resemblance, and that's what we were going for. And I did a little bit of extra stuff because I wanted her to be a fairy, and so that's what I turned her into. Now I'm going to go back in, this last little segment, I'm going to go back in with some of the fine pen line marker and just clean some things up that I kind of want to get straighter and prettier. And this is kind of the last stage before we do sealant. And these are just some places where I wanted to go in and put some more hair wisp in and things like that that I think make it look a little bit better. Okay. I'm going to do another line around her face here. Kind of got messed up in the paint. So I'm going to come back and smooth that out. Smooth that out a little bit. Come around her neckline here because I covered this line up with paint. Always wait, like I said earlier, always wait to do this pen after everything is very dry. And I'll be doing one more video, one more little time-lapse video with some of this fine line work. I'm gonna actually turn her upside down right in here and get that line back where I want it. Here I haven't even put in the lines yet, so I'm going to start that now. You'll see that I will do some lines with my black inking pen that are like wisps. I like to see those in black. This is where she starts looking a little bit less and less real, and that's what I like. Okay, all right, I'm going to time lapse this next step, putting in the rest of these black highlights, and then we'll come back and we'll give her one last look before we decide that we are done with her, or if we needed to add something to her, fix up her dress maybe a little bit. But we're getting close. We're getting very close. These just take a little while, but time and patience is worth a lot.
it's another day, and I am continuing on with our fairy lady that we started. And I'm going to tell you that I worked a lot on her over the night, and I'm going to put this piece of white paper down. And you may kind of think this is funny, but I did a background around her and that I did not like. So I cut her out of my background and will put her, I will have to glue her down. Mixed media, I guess you can do anything you kind of want to do, but I will be gluing her down on another surface. I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking that I might use an actual canvas and do, or maybe even on this, but I might do some tissue paper collaging behind her and find something that's really neat. You can see I added this really neat kind of fairy headband to her that I think just makes her special. I went back in and I did a little bit of more shading around the eyes and around the mouth because she is a bit on a little bit older. I usually do young, beautiful fairies, but I think this woman is just perfect for what I wanted to show you. I did go ahead and sign it, and usually after I sign something, I am finished. And I think I will call this one finished. And so that was the last part of our lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to switch back to my face camera and, well, in this video. The lighting in my room is a little different when I turn lights off for the desk camera. I'm excited about these new videos, but I do certainly apologize for how probably bad quality they are just yet. I'm trying my best to learn to do the audio. I will be now going and editing this YouTube so that by the time you watch it, it'll be a little bit better. All right, y'all have a great day, and so long from Texas.